Michael Carrick-ball has arrived, and it has arrived in style as Manchester United beat Manchester City 2-0 at Old Trafford. We'll be analysing the performance, seeing the tactics used by Michael Carrick and why Manchester United could be quite the force going on till the end of the season. But before I do begin, if you are new here, please do hit the subscribe and the like button as well, as I'll be covering Manchester United this season. But let's get on with the video. I want to start by saying that Michael Carrick got his profiling of his players spot on. He had a runner profile on the left-hand side with Dorgu in front of Shaw, allowing Manchester United to stretch the pitch and play those balls repeatedly in behind. He had the same with a runner through the centre with Mbeumo, and then he had ball-to-feet players behind them with Ahmad on the right-hand side and Fernandes through the centre to be able to feed those runners. And that's something Amrin hasn't been doing well, profiling his attackers to provide the best connections in the forward areas. What was also really good to see is the way that Manchester United built up. As you see, all the top teams do this. Three at the back, centre back Martinez, Maguire right centre half, and Luke Shaw left centre half. And he pushed Dalot really high, and he pushed Dorgu high as well, so that they are not influencing the build-up. And what I'd like to see was the use of the longer ball into these sort of areas for Dalot, for Diallo to sort of play with. And what that would do, once the ball was moved over to this situation here, it would drag the Manchester City players over, because City like to apply the squeeze, which means that once Manchester United get here, they also bring their players, Fernandes, Dalot, Mainu, even Casemiro comes over to this side. And that's why we saw a lot of intricate play between these players, because Manchester United provide overload on the ball side. Then they leave that runner on this side of the pitch. And that's why when the ball went into Fernandes, we were able to see these balls quite a lot. Whether it was Mainu as well, those balls into there, it would be on every single time. And because you had someone like Mbeumo, who's a quick runner through the centre, he was able to move into these zones really quickly to provide an option in behind or an option to feed for Dorgu. And that sort of rotation was so key to Manchester United being potent on the break. They applied the squeeze, bringing players over, dragging City players over to the side of the pitch, or it could be on the left-hand side of the pitch, and Mbeumo would move over, Mainu would come a bit as well, and Fernandes in these pockets, which again would just drag the City players over. Then again, you've got that longer ball shifted centrally because Carrick allowed for the vertical football to be played in these zones. And Mainu would find Dalot and Diallo. And because City is squeezed over here, you'd find yourself in so many 2v1 situations with Dalot inside the pitch and Diallo holding the width. And that's exactly what shows the quality of Carrick's football. He understands if we squeeze this side of the pitch, if we overload this area, City are going to be forced to move players here. And that means every single time, because we've got runners, because we've got ball to feet players, that switch is on every single time. And they got it spot on so many times. The role of Mbeumo and Fernandes as well was so key to the success that Manchester United had. And what was also quite interesting was the vertical play into these zones. When you've got someone like Kobbie Mainoo, who's so good in these tight spaces, he can receive back to goal, and you can almost play this triangle football between Casemiro and Fernandes, finding these little pockets of spaces in behind Rodri, getting on the blind side of Rodri, and Manchester United can play. And they weren't afraid either, with Martinez, with Maguire, whoever was on the ball, to go direct in here and feed off of those second balls. They'd have Ahmad come into these zones. They'd have Casemiro as well squeeze the space, and Mainu. And Manchester United would play off of those second balls. And sometimes you've got to do that against top opposition. It was really good. But let's now get on to the out of possession principles. Out of possession, I loved what I saw from Michael Carrick. It was simple. A 4-4-2 mid-block when Manchester City had the ball in these areas. And then they'd settle into a low block once that first line in the press was broken. But what was really good was the timing of the jumps. In Mbeumo, his movement towards the central centre-back at times to press was really good. Same with Fernandes towards Kusanov and through the middle centre-half as well. They were timing it really well, and that's why they were able to have so many turnovers, because once Fernandes would go, once sort of Mbeumo would go as well, it would mean that these guys, it would sort of trigger the press, and Mainu, Casemiro would push up higher. Ahmad would move up. Dorgu would also move up. Then Shaw would apply the squeeze. Dalot would apply the squeeze. And then Manchester United were able to win possession really easy, because the City players would be forced to play that longer ball, and Manchester United would be able to get players behind quickly and win those second balls as well. So it was such a hard-working out of possession performance, and one to be proud of. That's why I like teams that sort of press or defending this 4-4-2 block, because you're able to restrict the sort of balls through the middle of you. Teams can't play centrally through you. And that's why Foden, Cherki, they all struggle to find space, because in this 4-4-2, you're able to restrict it. And what was also really interesting was at times it would be Ahmad joining in the 4-4-2 press. They take it in turn so they wouldn't tire. Ahmad, it would be Fernandez, it would be Mbeumo and Ahmad. It would change. It would change between those three. Who is going to be the first line of the press? There would always be two of them, and they constantly change. It would be like second nature. And these out of possession sort of habits is what makes a top team. Being able to understand, okay, I go, you go. I sit into the right wing position. You sit in the centre forward zones. You press there. This is so important, especially against City with the intricate play. Sometimes, I will be honest, Rico Lewis's movement and movement from out here to in here, it would mean Manchester City were able to create triangles and get out of that first sort of press. But what was really good to see was Manchester United were able to quickly get numbers back and then go in to sort of a lower block. And they'd really sort of get numbers in and around to prevent that progression from Manchester City through the middle and also through the sides. There was multiple occasions, to be honest, though, where you would leave Dalot 1v1 against Doku, but that's sort of the risk you sort of take. You're allowing the wingers to have as much possession as possible when you do defend in this 4-4-2, and that's absolutely fine, because I think Dalot probably should have been sent off, which I won't really talk about. Dalot was really good in terms of constantly running out to Doku, not allowing enough time for him to see this run from Bernardo Silva, coming on Doku's blind side to defend. That's exactly what you want to see. But let's now get on to the image examples of United. So here is an example. Here's Dorgu on the ball, and you can already see the amount of numbers that Manchester United have in and around Dorgu. You've got Mbeumo, you've got Luke Shaw as well there. Then you've got Mainu, who's about to come into close proximity here to create that overload. And just look how many Manchester City players Manchester United have dragged over to this side of the pitch. You've got Cherki, you've got Lewis, you've got O'Reilly, you've got Rodri, which means that switch is always going to be on into the space. And this is the chance for Ahmad, which was saved, and then Casemiro had this sort of chance. Manchester United applying or bringing the Manchester City players towards them so that longer ball was on for them, and it was really effective. And once that sort of Dorgu plays that longer ball, something that I noticed a lot was Carrick's insistence on players arriving at the back stick. How many times did you see Ahmad on the ball, or if it was Dorgu on the ball, and see how many players were arriving at the back stick? Whether it was Mbeumo, whether it's Dorgu, whether it's Fernandez, they were always arriving. And what was really good was the amount of 1v1 situations they were allowed to get Ahmad into. And this is where you're going to get the joy. Get your best players in 1v1 scenarios as much as possible. And Ahmad caused a lot of problems doing this. And as we see him sort of go towards the box, you can already see the amount of numbers at the back stick, 1-2. You've got somebody occupying this central zone, Casemiro arriving 2. When you attack, you bring the numbers. That's what was happening with Carrick. Every attack, it was how many numbers can we get into the box to create an overload on the City players. I think here, Manchester United are basically man-to-man with the amount of players in the box compared to City's. And that's what you call potent. The ball does fall to Casemiro here, and it's a huge opportunity, which he misses. Here's another example. It's Cunha on the ball down the wing. And look how many players are in and around on that right-hand side of the pitch. I can count them. You've got Mainu. You've got sort of, I think that's Ahmad. You've got Dalot there. 3. And how many Manchester City players are brought over? 1, 2, 3, 4 basically, which means at the back stick, what we're about to see, players are out of position. Rodri's not covering the central areas. It means Fernandez, if the ball falls to him, is free. But Dorgu's anticipation of where the ball will go, absolutely superb. And that's what you need when you're up against these teams. And it's a brilliant goal. There were so many examples of this. This is just a few of them. And again, let's now look at the out of position principles. It was really interesting to see. You had the 4-4-2. This time it's Fernandez and Mbeumo through the front. Then you've got the 4 behind them as well. Then of course you've got the guys in the back line, and this is how you sort of apply the squeeze against very good teams. You defend 4-4-2. You're not going to play through the middle of us, and we're going to constantly press trigger you so you go longer, force the longer ball as much as possible. Michael Carrick, what a first game in charge for Manchester United.